Well, hey gang, how are you doing? Jonathan here for Tailhunter Sportfishing, and it's time once again for the Mexican Minute La Paz video fishing report. Not coming to you from La Paz, Baja, Mexico, but this is going to cover everything going on down in La Paz with our Tailhunter Sportfishing fleet. As a matter of fact, like I said, I'm not yet back in La Paz, but I'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a minute. But this is going to cover everything that's been going on down there with our fleet from the 17th through the 24th of January 2023. Wherever you are, hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for checking in. Thanks for spending time with us, and please do us a big favor, give us a thumbs up, a like, and don't forget to subscribe. Okay, like I said, not yet back in La Paz. If you've been following our fishing reports, you know that we've been on the road for about 4 months since January, doing all of these hunting and fishing shows, crisscrossing the United States with our booth, saying hi to everybody, high-fiving, hugs, and getting lots of reservations to come down to see us in La Paz. Well, we finished our last show in Indianapolis, Indiana at the NRA, the National Rifle Association Convention in Indianapolis about a week ago, but was not able to get a ticket back to La Paz and get home and get the season started just yet. But at the time you're watching this, I'll probably be on a plane or I will be back home. So we're getting the season started. Things are starting to cook. So let's talk about what's going on down there. The winds are still blowing. Don't get me wrong. You know that you've heard me say it time and time again. November to April is our off season. The winds blow terrifically. It's rough. It's cold. And this past winter has been the roughest, coldest, windiest winter that, well, I can remember in 30 years. It's been really tough to be on the water. Very often the port captain, as a matter of fact, shuts things down, doesn't let any boat traffic out on the water because it's just too dangerous and too rough. Well, with each passing week, now that we're getting closer to summer, the winds are diminishing little by little. We're not done with them yet, so don't get me wrong. There's still some winds coming up. And that's kind of what happened this past week. The earlier part of the week. You know, there's not that many people fishing yet either. I do warn everybody if they're coming down early that there could be some wind. So really the season's just about to kick off, really ready to get into full gear. So there haven't been many folks fishing just yet. But this past week we did have some folks out. Earlier in the week, as a matter of fact, the winds diminished enough to get out on the water. Wasn't exactly flat, but they were able to get out and get in some good fishing. Quite a variety, too. I'm really surprised. We still have some cold water fish in, so the pargo are starting to bite. Those big pargo liso, the mullet snapper. You know, a year ago, we got the world record mullet snapper at 46 pounds just off the south end of Cerralvo Island. Now, nothing approaching that world record. But if you've ever fought any one of these fish, they're in very, very shallow water. They're right there in the rocks, and this is the time of year when they're spawning. Now, when they spawn, you get into an area where they are, and I'm not kidding you, it looks like a Japanese koi pond on steroids. These are 5, 10, 15, 20-pound fish or larger. And it's just undulating copper and red, and they explode on the baits. The thing is, you get hooked up, and we call these zing powie fish because you hook up, your line goes zing, and they've got teeth, they've got sharp scales, and then they take you right back into the rocks, and they're one of the most frustrating fish that you can ever tangle with. We have some folks who come down specifically just to try getting one of these fish out of the rocks, and more often than not, the fish wins. It's almost like going to Vegas and putting that quarter in the machine and going, the next one is the one that's going to pay off, and boom, it doesn't work. So you put another quarter in and another quarter, and you just keep pulling the handle. That's what these pargo are like. Great sport fish, great eating. Tough to get out of the rocks, and even the smaller ones pull really hard. Well, they've come in and they've started to spawn. So we're starting to see those in the rocky areas around Punta Perico, just outside of Muertos Bay, and over at the north end and the east side of Cerralvo Island. They're starting to spawn up over there. So I think hopefully if the water conditions continue as they were this week, we're going to have a lot of action on these pargo. But in addition to the pargo, there's snapper, there's cabrilla, the Sierra are still biting. Lots of fun on bonita, but also, you know, it's not summertime yet. The waters aren't particularly warm. It's still April. Some nice Dorado are biting. We had some 20 and 30 pounders bite this week, which is really unusual. Normally, we don't start seeing the Dorado until maybe May or so, but they're swimming around, which leads me to believe either those are holdovers from before or there are some patches of warmer water here and there. But that's a nice bonus to be, especially to be fishing close inshore for some of these rockfish like the pargo and the cabrilla, the snapper, Jack Crevalle, and then suddenly there's a Dorado on your line. A lot of folks asked at the shows, listen, I know you guys got some fish, but we really want some blue water fish. How far out do we have to go? Or do we need a bigger boat, bigger than the Pongas you guys got? And I have to assure them that, listen, we don't have to go out very far. We don't have to run 10, 20, 30 miles offshore to find pelagic blue water fish. I mean, my last marlin was in 20 feet of water. I've seen tuna in 30 feet of water. I have caught wahoo and Dorado off the rocks. So you don't have to go out very far, and that's one of the big secrets of coming to fish in the PAZ. These fish are very, very close to shore. We're not trolling, so all of these fish are getting caught on live or dead bait, which makes it a lot of fun because instead of the boat catching the fish, you've got the rod and reel in your hand. So it's very proactive. It's not passive. You get to set the hook, you get to fight the fish, you get to bring it into the boat. A lot more fun, a lot more active, and it's not quite so boring as trolling up and down, back and forth, waiting for something to happen. So a lot of action. There are no tuna. Well, I won't say there aren't any tuna. It's just that other things are biting so well. There's still some yellowtail around. There weren't that many this week. I think part of it was because the winds came up later in the week, but the tuna have been over at Cerralvo Island, and if the winds are blowing, you can't get over there, or you can't get to Baja on the north side of Espiritu Santo Island. So rather than burn the gas and maybe taking a shot for the home run, most of the captains are taking the fishermen to areas where at least they're going to have some action. They have a chance at some trophy fish, a lot of variety. So not to say that the tuna aren't there. It's just that nobody's really chasing them right now. And speaking about El Bajo, we did finally send some boats out on the north end, or fishing directly out of La Paz, heading north toward Espiritu Santo Island, and they hit those winds. Those northern winds are just a bugaboo. If you hit the winds, you're not going to get very far, and that's exactly what happened. The boats got turned back, but there had been a very good yellowtail bite at the El Bajo seamount north of Espiritu Santo Island. But if you can't get there, you got to fish inshore. That's not to say they had a bad time. They just didn't get out to El Bajo. They caught some Dorado, some snapper were caught, some cabria, and part of the good news that we heard this week, some of the bigger rooster fish are starting to get in. Now, none of those hogs got caught. None of the 50, 60, 100 pounders that we're known for. But it's early in the season, and they were ridiculous. I mean, they were legitimate 10, 20-pound fish caught on the jigs, caught on bait. So a lot of fun, very close to shore, spectacular fish. And of course, it's on a lot of people's bucket list. So I've got my fingers crossed. The big boys are going to start coming in. We've got to wait until they get those big baits, because big fish like big baits. And these rooster fish, especially like the bigger sabalo, which are the ladyfish, and they're 12, 18 inches long. When those start moving in, chances are the bigger rooster fish will come in as well. So anyway, like I said, by the time you're listening to this, I will be back home in La Paz. The season will be on. I know a lot of folks are coming down starting next week, and then we're full the rest of the season. I still got some spots open. So if you're planning to come down or you're thinking about coming down, give us a call. Send us an email. I still have some spots open, but I'm getting reservations every day, and a lot of spots are already filled. So let us know as soon as you can. Anyway, I'm Jonathan for the Mexican Minute. Thank you so much for checking in. You take care of each other. God bless. We'll catch you again next week.